Oliver Hartwell adjusted his bespoke Savile Row suit as he surveyed the private dining room at Thornfield, one of London's most exclusive restaurants. The evening summer light filtered through the tall windows, casting a golden glow across the polished oak table where his executive team had gathered to celebrate closing the Yamaguchi deal. 6 months of negotiations, countless sleepless nights, and now Hartwell Investments had secured its largest international partnership to date. To £20 million and the future of Anglo-Japanese relations, declared Fiona Mitchell, his razor-sharp CFO, raising her champagne flute. £20 million and counting, Oliver corrected with a satisfied smile, clinking his glass against hers. At 38, he had built Hartwell Investments from a modest family inheritance into one of London's most respected boutique financial firms. The room buzzed with the animated conversations of his 6-person executive team, their voices carrying the particular confidence of people who had just added several zeros to their annual bonuses. "Have you decided how you're distributing the performance bonuses yet?" asked Richard Pennington, head of client relations, loosening his tie after his 3rd glass of champagne. His ruddy face had grown increasingly flushed as the evening progressed. Oliver leaned back in his chair, enjoying the moment. "The contracts are already with HR. You'll all be very pleased tomorrow morning." "Oh, come on, Ollie," Richard pressed, using the nickname Oliver tolerated only from his oldest colleagues. "Give us a hint. Who got the top bonus? It's Marcus, isn't it?" He gestured toward their stone-faced chief legal officer, who merely raised an eyebrow in response. "A gentleman never tells," Oliver replied smoothly, though he secretly enjoyed holding this power over his team. Control was his specialty. His father had taught him that early. The elder Hartwell had built the family's modest wealth through disciplined investments and even more disciplined personal habits. "Loose lips sink portfolios," he would say, and Oliver had internalized the lesson thoroughly. A young woman approached their table, her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore the restaurant's uniform, crisp white shirt, black trousers, elegant apron, but carried herself with a quiet confidence that caught Oliver's attention. "Good evening," she said, her voice carrying a musical quality that didn't quite match the refined tones of native London. "I'm Amelia, and I'll be your server tonight. Would you like to hear about our chef's special menu?" "We've already ordered," Richard said dismissively, barely glancing up. "Actually," Oliver interjected, "I'd like to hear the specials." He wasn't particularly interested in changing his order, but something about the way Richard had brushed her off irritated him. "Of course, sir." Amelia's warm brown eyes met his briefly. "Tonight, Chef Williams has prepared a Welsh lamb with rosemary and garlic, served with seasonal vegetables from our own gardens. There's also a Cornish sea bass with saffron and fennel sauce that's quite remarkable." "The lamb sounds excellent," Oliver said, noticing a faint accent in her speech he couldn't quite place. "Eastern European, perhaps?" "Thank you, Amelia." She nodded professionally and moved to walk away, but Richard, now properly soused, let out a chuckle. Wait, he called, causing her to turn back. "I've got a question. That wine—" He pointed unsteadily at the list. "The one from your homeland. How do you pronounce it?" Oliver followed Richard's finger to a Polish wine on the list, a small batch offering from a boutique vineyard near Krakow. "Jagodowy Wzgórze," Emilia replied effortlessly, the syllables flowing with a gentle precision that made the words sound almost like music. "It means Berry Hill in English. It's a lovely semi-dry red with notes of forest fruits." Richard blinked, clearly disappointed that she hadn't struggled. "You're Polish, then?" "Half Polish, half English," she confirmed with a polite smile. "My mother is from Krakow." "Fascinating," Richard slurred slightly. "I've always found Eastern European languages impossible. All consonants and no vowels." He attempted to repeat the wine name and butchered it spectacularly, drawing laughs from around the table. Oliver watched as Amelia maintained her professional composure, though he caught the barest flicker of annoyance in her eyes. Before she could respond, Marcus pointed to another item on the menu. "What about this one?" he asked, indicating a Czech dish listed as a special import. Svichkova na smetanie, she pronounced flawlessly. It's beef sirloin with a cream sauce, traditionally served with dumplings and cranberry sauce. Impressive, Oliver said genuinely. Do you speak Czech as well? No, sir, but I studied linguistics at university. I have an ear for phonetics, Richard snorted. Linguistics at university? And now you're waiting tables? Oliver shot him a warning glance, but Fiona was already leaning forward with interest. Which university? She asked. Oxford, Amelia replied, a hint of defensiveness creeping into her voice. I graduated with honours 3 years ago. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Oliver could see his team recalibrating their assessment of the woman standing before them. And yet here you are, Richard muttered, not quite under his breath. Richard, Oliver said sharply. No, it's quite all right, Amelia said, her chin lifting slightly. The academic job market is extremely competitive, and I'm working on my doctoral thesis in the meantime. Thornfield has been very accommodating with my research schedule. Oliver found himself intrigued. Here was someone who had clearly faced setbacks, but spoke about them with dignity rather than excuses. It was refreshing after years of listening to investment bankers explain away failures with elaborate justifications. I bet you can't pronounce this one, Richard persisted, pointing to a Hungarian wine at the bottom of the list. Richard, that's enough, Oliver said firmly. No, it's a fair challenge, Amelia replied, the faintest edge to her voice. She glanced at the name. Egri Bikaver. It means bull's blood of Eger. It's quite robust. Richard's face fell, and Oliver couldn't help but smile. His inebriated colleague was clearly hoping to embarrass the server, but she was more than his match. What about this one? Fiona asked, pointing to a Finnish dish on the seasonal menu. Karjalan piraka, Amelia said without hesitation. A competitive spirit suddenly gripped the table as each executive tried to find something on the international menu that would stump her. Amelia pronounced each item correctly, from the Russian borscht to the Welsh caul, her confidence growing with each success. Oliver found himself watching her with increasing admiration. There was something compelling about her calm competence in the face of what had essentially become an impromptu oral exam. All right, Richard finally conceded, the alcohol making him bolder. But I bet there's something you can't pronounce. He fumbled with his phone, typing something into a search engine. Richard, this is inappropriate, Oliver began, but his colleague waved him off. Here we go, Richard said triumphantly, showing his phone screen to Amelia. Pronounce the name of this Welsh village. Oliver caught a glimpse of the infamous 70-letter Welsh town name that was often used as a pronunciation challenge. He was about to intervene when Amelia cleared her throat. Lanfair Pulgwyn Gilgogerich Werndrab Wlanti Silio Gogogoch, she recited perfectly, without even looking at the screen. A stunned silence fell over the table. That's correct, Marcus said, checking the phone. Oliver couldn't contain his laughter. Extraordinary. Richard, looking thoroughly defeated, slumped back in his chair. Well, I'm out of ideas. A mischievous impulse seized Oliver. I'll tell you what, he said, leaning forward. I'll give you my bonus if you can pronounce this. He scribbled something on his napkin and handed it to Amelia. She looked at it, one eyebrow raised in amusement. That's not a word, Mr. Hartwell. That's a chemical formula. Precisely. In that case, methylene-deoxymethamphetamine, she pronounced carefully, though it's more commonly known as MDMA or ecstasy, not something I'd expect to find on Thornfield's menu. Oliver blinked in surprise, then laughed genuinely for what felt like the first time in months. Well played. Does this mean I get your bonus? Amelia asked with a hint of cheekiness that transformed her face, revealing a dimple in her left cheek. I'm afraid my shareholders might object, Oliver replied, finding himself charmed by her quick wit. But I think we've taken up enough of your time with our games. Thank you for being such a good sport. My pleasure, she said with a small nod, before departing to check on their orders. As she walked away, Oliver found his eyes following her, noticing the confident set of her shoulders and the way she navigated between tables with practiced ease. There was something refreshing about her, an authenticity that seemed rare in his world of calculated risks and strategic relationships. Oxford linguistics graduate waiting tables, Fiona mused. The job market really must be brutal. Or perhaps she simply hasn't found the right opportunity yet, Oliver replied thoughtfully. The conversation shifted to market projections and client expectations, but Oliver found his attention repeatedly drawn to Emilia as she moved about the restaurant. When she returned with their first courses, he noticed the careful way she arranged each plate, the small adjustments she made to ensure the presentation was perfect. Attention to detail, another quality he valued highly. "I apologize for my colleague's behavior earlier," he said quietly as she placed his plate before him. "No apology necessary," she replied. "I've handled far worse. Though I appreciate the sentiment, still, it was unprofessional." He hesitated, then added, "You mentioned you're working on a doctoral thesis." A genuine smile touched her lips. "Yes, comparative phonology of Slavic languages with emphasis on Polish dialectal variations. Not exactly dinner conversation. On the contrary, I find it fascinating. Languages have never been my strong suit. I scraped through French at school and have regretted not paying more attention ever since." "It's never too late to learn," she said, and for a moment their eyes met properly. Oliver felt an unexpected connection, fleeting but undeniable. The moment was broken by Richard calling for another bottle of champagne, and Emilia stepped back into her professional role. "I'll be right back with that, sir." Throughout the meal, Oliver found himself increasingly aware of her presence, noticing the way she anticipated their needs before they could voice them. When the dessert menus arrived, he made his decision. "Excuse me," he said as Emilia cleared his plate. "I'm wondering if I might speak with you privately for a moment. I have a business proposition that might interest you." A flicker of wariness crossed her face. "I'm afraid I'm on duty until 11, Mr. Hartwell." "Of course. Perhaps tomorrow. I could stop by around closing time." She considered him carefully. "May I ask what sort of proposition?" "A translation project. We're expanding into Eastern Europe, and we need someone with your linguistic expertise." Interest sparked in her eyes, quickly tempered by caution. "I see. Well, my shift ends at 5 tomorrow." "5 it is, then," Oliver confirmed. "I look forward to discussing the details." As they were leaving, Oliver handed her his business card. "Until tomorrow, Emilia." "Nowak," she supplied. "Emilia Nowak." "Until tomorrow, Ms. Nowak." And outside, as his team piled into waiting taxis, Fiona gave him a knowing look. "Translation project. Since when do we handle our own translations?" Oliver shrugged. "Since we found someone uniquely qualified." Fiona hummed skeptically. "Just remember, Ollie, not everything in life is a business transaction." He waved her off, but as his own car arrived, Oliver found himself thinking about Emilia Nowak, her quiet confidence, her evident intelligence, and the brief moment when their eyes had connected. For the first time in years, he was looking forward to a meeting that had nothing to do with profit margins or investment returns. As London's evening lights blurred past his window, Oliver realized he was smiling. Tomorrow would be interesting indeed. Emilia Nowak balanced 3 plates of eggs Benedict along her forearm with practiced precision, navigating through Thornfield's morning rush with balletic grace. The breakfast service was always chaotic, business people rushing to meetings, tourists lingering over coffee, and the occasional celebrity hiding behind designer sunglasses. Despite the chaos, she found comfort in the rhythm of service, the predictable patterns of human behavior during the first meal of the day. "Table 7's complaining about the hollandaise again," muttered Raj, another server, as they passed each other. "Third time this week," Emilia replied with a sympathetic grimace. "Chef's going to have a fit." She delivered her orders with a warm smile that concealed the mental calculations running through her head. Rent due in 8 days. Thesis advisor meeting tomorrow. 300 pages of Polish dialectal transcriptions to analyze by next month. And now, inexplicably, a meeting with one of London's rising financial stars about a translation project. Oliver Hartwell. She'd Googled him after her shift last night, scanning business profiles and financial news articles until her eyes burned. Hartwell Investments, boutique firm with an impressive growth trajectory, specializing in European market penetration and cross-border investments. Oxford graduate himself, though in economics rather than linguistics. Unmarried, no children. Several society page appearances with different women, none recurring more than twice. Reputation for ruthless efficiency and impeccable business instincts. What could someone like him possibly want with her? The cynical part of her brain, the part shaped by 3 years of serving wealthy patrons who occasionally mistook professional courtesy for personal interest, suspected the business proposition might be nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt at something less professional. Yet he hadn't given off that vibe. His interest had seemed genuine, his manner respectful, if somewhat reserved. "Emilia, phone call for you at the host stand," called Martina, the maitre d'. Frowning, Emilia made her way to the front. Nobody ever called her at work except her mother, and those calls never boded well. "Hello? Emilia? It's Dr. Peterson." Her thesis advisor's clipped tone made her stomach tighten. "Dr. Peterson, good morning. I thought we were meeting tomorrow." "We were. Unfortunately, I've been called to an emergency department meeting. We'll need to reschedule for next week. Wednesday at 2? Emilia's heart sank. Another week's delay meant another week without feedback, another week of uncertainty. "Yes, that's fine," she managed, keeping her voice level. "Is there anything specific you'd like me to prepare for our meeting?" "Just the usual progress update. And Emilia, I hope you're considering my suggestion about narrowing your focus. The comparative element is making your thesis unwieldy." "I'm working on it," she lied. The comparative analysis was the heart of her work, the element that made it potentially groundbreaking rather than merely thorough. "Good. We'll discuss it Wednesday. 2 o'clock. The line went dead, and Emilia exhaled slowly. Dr. Peterson had been skeptical of her ambitious thesis from the beginning, pushing her towards something more manageable. Translation, less challenging to supervise. She refused to compromise her vision, even if it meant a rockier path to completion. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of orders, coffees, and the peculiar mix of entitlement and insecurity that characterized many of Thornfield's clientele. By 4:30, her feet ached and a tension headache pulsed behind her right eye, but she had earned decent tips and managed to avoid any major disasters. As she helped set up for the evening service, folding crisp white napkins into perfect triangles, she found her thoughts returning to Oliver Hartwell and their impending meeting. Should she have suggested a more neutral location? The restaurant would be nearly empty between lunch and dinner service, but still, meeting here kept him firmly in the role of patron, her as server. "Someone's deep in thought," observed Martina, sliding onto a stool beside her. "Thesis problems." "That, and—" Emilia hesitated. "I have a meeting after my shift, potentially about translation work." Martina's eyebrows shot up. "Translation? With who?" "A customer from last night. He runs an investment firm that's expanding into Eastern Europe." "Male customer." When Emilia nodded, Martina's expression turned skeptical. "And he just happened to need a Polish translator after watching you wait tables? Be careful, Em." "It's not like that," Emilia protested, though the same doubts had crossed her mind. "He seemed genuine." "They all seem genuine," Martina replied, patting her hand. "Just meet him in public and don't give out your address, yeah?" "We're meeting here," Emilia assured her. "And I'm not naive." "Course not. You're just trusting, which is different. Mostly." At precisely 5 o'clock, Emilia changed out of her uniform into slim-fitting jeans and a simple blue blouse. She released her hair from its tight ponytail, massaging her scalp where it had pulled all day. A touch of lip balm, a spritz of perfume. Subtle changes that helped her transition from server Emilia to doctoral candidate Emilia. She was gathering her things when Marcel, the evening host, appeared at the locker room door. "Your gentleman caller has arrived," he said with theatrical formality. "Shall I show him to the garden room? It's empty until 7. "Yes, please," Emilia replied, ignoring his suggestive tone. "And he's a potential client, not a gentleman caller." "If you say so," Marcel grinned. "Though I must say, potential clients don't usually bring portfolios and look like they've stepped out of GQ magazine." Emilia rolled her eyes, but couldn't help checking her reflection once more before following Marcel to the garden room. A small, glass-enclosed space at the back of the restaurant, overlooking a meticulously maintained courtyard. The evening light filtered through climbing roses and wisteria, casting dappled shadows across the polished wooden floors. Oliver Hartwell stood as she entered, and Emilia was struck again by his commanding presence. Today, he wore a charcoal suit that looked casual despite its obvious expense, the top button of his white shirt undone in a calculated gesture of informality. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his clean-shaven face accentuated strong cheekbones and a determined jaw. "Ms. Nowak," he greeted her, extending his hand. "Thank you for meeting with me." His handshake was firm but not aggressive, the carefully calibrated grip of someone who had read articles about the importance of first impressions. "Mr. Hartwell," she replied, matching his formality. "Please call me Emilia." "Then you must call me Oliver." He gestured to the table, where 2 cups of tea waited alongside a sleek leather portfolio. "I took the liberty of ordering tea. I hope you don't mind." "Not at all." She sat across from him, maintaining eye contact despite the flutter of nervousness in her stomach. This man represented a world so different from hers, a world of effortless privilege and confident decision-making. "Before we begin," he said, stirring a small spoonful of honey into his tea, "I want to apologize again for my colleague's behavior last night. Richard can be difficult when he's had a few drinks." "Occupational hazard," Emilia replied with a small shrug. "Server versus served, an ancient power dynamic." Oliver's eyebrows lifted slightly at her candor. "An anthropological perspective. Interesting. Linguistics and anthropology often overlap. Both study human systems of meaning." "Systems of meaning," he repeated thoughtfully. "That's rather what I wanted to discuss with you." He opened the portfolio and slid several documents across the table. "Are you familiar with Hartwell Investments?" "I did some research last night," Emilia admitted. "Boutique investment firm specializing in European markets, particularly successful in the tech and renewable energy sectors." Succinct and accurate. He looked pleased. "We're expanding our Eastern European portfolio, particularly in Poland, Czech Republic and Hungary. The Yamaguchi deal you witnessed us celebrating last night is financing this expansion." Emilia nodded, beginning to see where this was heading. "And you need translation services." "Yes and no." Oliver leaned forward slightly. "We have corporate translators for standard documents. What we need is someone who understands not just the languages, but the cultural nuances, someone who can hear what's being said beneath the words." "Paralinguistic interpretation," Emilia murmured. "Exactly." His eyes lit with genuine interest. "In negotiations, what isn't said often matters more than what is. I need someone who can catch those subtleties, especially when I'm negotiating with Polish firms whose representatives may assume their side conversations are private." Emilia felt a twinge of ethical concern. "You want me to eavesdrop?" "I want you to ensure transparency," he corrected smoothly, "to create a level playing field. Our Japanese partners will bring interpreters. I need someone equally skilled on our side." He slid another document forward. "This is the contract we're proposing. 3 months initially, with option to extend. You'd accompany me to meetings in London, Warsaw, and possibly Prague. Emilia glanced at the document, and her eyes widened at the compensation figure. It was more than she earned in 6 months at Thornfield. "This is generous," she said carefully. "It's market rate for specialized linguistic consulting," Oliver replied. "Plus, I understand you're working on a doctoral thesis. This position includes flexible hours to accommodate your research." Emilia studied him, trying to discern his true motivation. Why me specifically? London must be full of Polish speakers with business experience. Oliver sat back, considering her question. For a moment, his carefully constructed persona seemed to slip, revealing something more genuine beneath. "Because you impressed me," he said simply. "Not just your linguistic abilities, though those are clearly exceptional. It was how you handled yourself, dignity without deference, intelligence without pretension." He paused. "Those qualities are rare in my world, Ms. Nowak. Emilia, I value them." The unexpected honesty caught her off guard. She had prepared herself for corporate platitudes or, worse, thinly veiled flirtation. This straightforward appreciation of her character was disarming. "I see," she said, buying time as she gathered her thoughts. "And what exactly would this position entail on a day-to-day basis?" Oliver outlined the role: reviewing documents, attending meetings, providing cultural context for negotiations, occasionally entertaining Polish business associates in appropriate settings. The work sounded fascinating, a practical application of her academic knowledge that might actually make a difference in the real world. "What about my job here?" she asked. "I can't simply leave them short-staffed." "I've already spoken with your manager," Oliver replied, and at her startled look he added, "Not about you specifically. I simply inquired about their policies regarding employees pursuing other opportunities. They require 2 weeks' notice, which we can certainly accommodate." Emilia felt a flash of irritation at his presumption. "You seem very confident that I'll accept your offer." "Not confident," he corrected. "Hopeful. There's a difference." She studied the contract again, mind racing with possibilities. The money would ease her financial pressure significantly. The flexible schedule would give her more time for her thesis. The experience would look impressive on her CV when she eventually applied for academic positions. And yet, "What if I'm not what you expect?" she asked bluntly. "What if my skills don't translate to the business world the way you hope?" Oliver's mouth curved in a slight smile. "I rarely make mistakes in assessing potential, Emilia, but if I'm wrong, the contract includes a generous severance clause." He tapped a paragraph on the 3rd page. "No harm done." Emilia took a deep breath. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "Opportunities don't announce themselves with trumpets, Kochani. They slip in quietly when you're busy making other plans. I'd like to take the contract home and review it properly," she said, "if that's acceptable." "Of course." Oliver produced a business card and wrote a number on the back. "My personal mobile. Call me with any questions, day or night. I'll need your decision by Friday. We have meetings scheduled in Warsaw next week." "Next week?" Emilia's eyes widened. "That's very soon." "The investment world moves quickly," he replied with a slight shrug. "Too slowly, and opportunities vanish. Strike while the iron is hot, as they say." As if on cue, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then back at her apologetically. "I need to take this. Financial crisis in miniature." "Of course." She gathered the documents, sliding them into her bag. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Hartwell. Oliver, I'll be in touch." He stood as she did, that old-world courtesy again. "I look forward to it." Their eyes met briefly, and Emilia felt an unexpected current between them. Not exactly attraction, though he was undeniably handsome, but something more complex. Recognition, perhaps. Two people who understood the value of precision, of getting things exactly right. Outside Thornfield, London's evening air carried the scent of approaching rain. Emilia walked briskly toward the tube station, her mind churning with possibilities. This unexpected fork in her path could change everything: her finances, her thesis timeline, perhaps even her career trajectory. Her phone buzzed as she descended the tube stairs. A text from her mother. "Calling tonight. Important news about the house. Love you, Kochani." Emilia sighed. Another complication. The family home in Krakow had been slowly deteriorating since her father's death, and her mother's increasingly dire updates were a constant source of guilt. The money from this contract could help there too. On the crowded train home, she reread the contract carefully, looking for hidden catches or unreasonable clauses. It seemed straightforward, even generous. The work aligned perfectly with her skills. The compensation would solve several pressing problems. So why the hesitation? Perhaps because Oliver Hartwell represented a world she had deliberately avoided, the corporate realm of profit motives and power dynamics. She had chosen academia precisely because it valued knowledge for its own sake, not for its marketability. Or perhaps she feared what accepting might mean, that after years of insisting her academic path would eventually pay off, she was tacitly admitting defeat by taking a corporate position. By the time she reached her tiny flat in Kilburn, shared with two other struggling academics, Emilia had made her decision. She would accept the position, but with clear boundaries and expectations. This was a professional opportunity, nothing more. A temporary deviation from her path, not a new direction. Her flatmate Priya looked up from her laptop as Emilia entered. "You're back early. Bad shift?" "Actually, no." Emilia set her bag down and collapsed onto their worn sofa. "I've been offered a job. A real job, using my degree. 3 times what I make at Thornfield." Priya's eyes widened. "What? How? When?" Emilia explained the offer, watching her friend's expression shift from shock to excitement to suspicion. "And this Oliver bloke just happened to need exactly your skills?" Priya asked skeptically. "Bit convenient, isn't it?" "That's what Martina said," Emilia sighed. "But the contract is legitimate, the company is real, and he was professional." "Handsome professional or troll professional?" "Oh," Priya asked with a knowing grin. Emilia threw a cushion at her. "That's irrelevant." "So, handsome then." Priya dodged the cushion easily. "Just be careful, Em. Rich city boys have a reputation." "It's not like that," Emilia insisted, though Oliver's intense gaze flickered through her memory. "This is strictly business." "If you say so," Priya replied, unconvinced. "But when you're jetting off to Warsaw with Mr. GQ investment banker, remember I told you so. He's not an investment banker, he's a—" Emilia stopped, recognizing the trap. "Oh, shut up." Later that night, after a difficult conversation with her mother about roof repairs and property taxes, Emilia sat at her small desk, reviewing her thesis notes. The familiar patterns of linguistic data usually calmed her, but tonight her mind kept wandering to Oliver Hartwell and his unexpected offer. Before she could overthink it, she picked up her phone and typed a message to the number he had given her. "Contract reviewed. Terms acceptable. Available to start Monday after providing notice to Thornfield. One condition. My academic work remains my priority. If this is agreeable, I accept your offer. Emilia Nowak." She hit send before she could second-guess herself, then set the phone down and attempted to refocus on her work. Less than 2 minutes later, it buzzed with a response. "Condition accepted. Welcome to Hartwell Investments, Emilia. Car will collect you Monday, 9 a.m. Address?" "Oh." She typed her address, then added, "Thank you for the opportunity." His response came immediately. "Thank you for accepting. I have a feeling this will be a mutually beneficial arrangement. Good night, Emilia." As she prepared for bed, Emilia found herself wondering what exactly she had set in motion. For better or worse, on Monday morning, she would step into Oliver Hartwell's world, a world as far from academic linguistics as it was possible to get. The thought was terrifying, and, if she was honest with herself, just a little bit thrilling. Monday morning arrived with London's typical drizzle, the kind that wasn't quite rain, but still managed to frizz Emilia's hair and dampen her spirits. She stood by her building's entrance, overnight bag in hand, scanning the street for her ride. The weekend had passed in a blur of notice-giving, thesis organizing, and fielding concerned calls from her mother. "A financial firm? Kocheni, is this wise?" her mother had asked, worry evident even across international lines. "Your father always said those city types were wolves in expensive suits." Emilia had laughed it off, but now, waiting in the damp morning air, doubt crept in. Was she making a terrible mistake? A sleek black Jaguar pulled up precisely at 9, its quiet purr announcing money without needing to shout about it. The driver, a compact man with salt and pepper hair, emerged with an umbrella. "Ms. Nowak, I'm Harrison. Mr. Hartwell sent me." The interior smelled of leather and subtle cologne. Emilia settled into the back seat, suddenly conscious of her high-street clothes and sensible shoes. She had dressed carefully, professional but not trying too hard, yet still felt like an imposter. London blurred past as Harrison navigated toward the city, the financial district's glass towers gradually replacing Kilburn's modest brick buildings. They pulled up to a contemporary glass structure that somehow managed to look both imposing and elegant. "Hartwell Investments, 12th floor," Harrison informed her. "Mr. Hartwell is expecting you." The elevator whisked her upward, her stomach dropping in a way that had nothing to do with the rapid ascent. When the doors opened, she stepped into a world of understated luxury, muted greys and blues, original artwork, and floor-to-ceiling windows framing London's skyline. "Emilia," Oliver's voice carried across the reception area. He approached with that same confident stride she remembered, today in a navy suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Welcome to Hartwell Investments." His handshake was warm, his smile genuine. Up close, Emilia noticed the faint shadow beneath his eyes, evidence of a weekend likely spent working rather than relaxing. "Thank you for the car," she said, suddenly feeling awkward. "It wasn't necessary." "First impressions matter," he replied, guiding her through glass doors into the main office. "Even the impressions we make on our own team." The office buzzed with quiet efficiency, about 20 people at sleek workstations, speaking in low tones or typing rapidly. Oliver led her past them to a corner office with 2 glass walls overlooking the Thames. "This will be yours," he said, gesturing to a desk positioned near his larger one. "I hope you don't mind sharing my space. It's more efficient for the type of work we'll be doing." Emilia took in the airy room, the ergonomic chair, the latest model computer, and the small shelf already stocked with linguistic reference books. Someone had done their homework. "It's perfect," she admitted, "though I wasn't expecting such proximity." Oliver's mouth quirked in what might have been amusement. "Is that a problem?" "Not at all, just unexpected. You'll find I prefer direct communication. No point in sending emails when we can simply speak." He indicated a chair. "Coffee? Tea?" "Coffee, please." "Black." He raised an eyebrow. "No sugar? No milk?" "I like to taste what I'm drinking," she replied, then immediately wondered if she'd sounded judgmental, but Oliver merely nodded. "As do I." He pressed a button on his desk. "Diane, 2 black coffees, please." A sleek woman in her 50s appeared so promptly that Emilia suspected she'd been hovering nearby, curious about the new arrival. "Right away, Mr. Hartwell." Her assessing gaze swept over Emilia. "Welcome to Hartwell, Ms. Nowak. I'm Diane Blake, head of operations." Emilia offered her hand. "Pleasure to meet you." "Diane keeps everything running," Oliver explained after she departed. "Nothing happens here without her knowledge." "Including hiring mysterious linguists," Emilia ventured. "Especially that." His blue eyes held hers. "She's approved, by the way. Said you have backbone." High praise from Diane. Before Emilia could respond, the door opened again, revealing a striking woman with cropped silver hair and an impeccable red suit. "Ah, Fiona," Oliver said. "Perfect timing. Emilia, this is Fiona Mitchell, our CFO. Fiona, Emilia Nowak, our new linguistic consultant. From waitress to consultant in one weekend, Fiona observed, shaking Amelia's hand firmly. Impressive career trajectory. I was always a consultant, Amelia replied evenly. I just happened to be serving food while consulting. Fiona's serious expression cracked into a genuine smile. I like her, Ollie. To Amelia she added, don't let him work you too hard. He forgets normal humans need sleep. After Fiona left, Diane returned with their coffee and a thick folder. Your Polish contracts, Mr. Hartwell. And Ms. Nowak's paperwork is complete. ID card, security access, and travel authorizations. Efficient as always, Diane. Oliver waited until they were alone again before sliding the folder across to Amelia. The Warsaw Tech acquisition. Our first priority. Amelia opened it to find pages of technical jargon in both English and Polish. You're buying a tech company. Merging with, he corrected. They have patents we need. We have capital they need. Ideal symbiosis if we can navigate the cultural differences. He sipped his coffee. That's where you come in. You want me to review these contracts for linguistic nuances. To start with, then you'll join me for the negotiations in Warsaw on Wednesday. Wednesday, as in the day after tomorrow. Oliver's expression remained neutral. Is that a problem? Amelia thought quickly. Her advisor meeting was Wednesday at 2, but that was London time. If they were in Warsaw... Not at all, she said, decision made. Dr. Peterson would have to wait. I'll need to make a few calls to rearrange some commitments. Use my office. Oliver stood. I have a meeting. Take your time with those documents. Flag anything that feels off, even if you can't immediately articulate why. Sometimes our instincts catch what our conscious mind misses. After he left, Amelia stared at the closed door, slightly dazed by the whirlwind morning. From waiting tables to reviewing international contracts in less than 48 hours. Her father would have called it Zhaishoi roller coaster. Life's roller coaster. She spent the morning immersed in contract language, marking subtle discrepancies between the English and Polish versions. Around 1, Oliver returned with sandwiches and sparkling water. Working lunch, he explained, clearing a space on his desk. Tell me what you found. Amelia laid out her observations. Places where the Polish used more definitive language than the English, subtle shifts in obligation terms, cultural references that might be misinterpreted. Oliver listened intently, occasionally making notes. This is exactly what I needed, he said when she finished. The official translators missed half of these nuances. They're not trained to look for them, Amelia replied. Linguistic pragmatics is specialized. Like being able to hear what people mean rather than just what they say. Precisely. Their eyes met briefly, and Amelia felt that same spark of recognition. Two people who valued precision in different realms, finding unexpected common ground. The afternoon blurred into introductions, systems training, and more document review. By 6, Amelia's head buzzed with new information, but Oliver showed no signs of slowing. One more meeting, he said, checking his watch. The executive team should see your findings before Warsaw. Now? Amelia asked, suddenly conscious of her travel-rumpled clothes and fading makeup. No time like the present. He gestured toward the conference room where 5 people already waited. After you. The next hour tested Amelia's composure as she presented her analysis to Oliver's executive team. Richard Pennington, clearly hungover from their first meeting, barely concealed his skepticism. Marcus Thompson, the stone-faced legal officer, peppered her with technical questions. Only Fiona offered encouraging nods. When Amelia finished, silence fell over the room. Well, Richard finally said, that was certainly academic. It was insightful, Oliver corrected sharply. Exactly the edge we need with Warsaw Tech. If you say so, Ollie. Richard's tone suggested he remained unconvinced. I do say so. Oliver's voice carried quiet authority. And the Yamaguchi partners specifically requested this level of cultural intelligence in our negotiations. That silenced Richard. The meeting concluded shortly after, with assignments distributed for the Warsaw trip. As the others filed out, Fiona lingered. "Don't mind Richard," she told Amelia. "He's threatened by competence, especially in women." "I've served his type before," Amelia replied. "Different suit, same attitude," Fiona laughed. "Oh, I definitely like you." She glanced at Oliver, who was speaking with Marcus by the door. "Just remember, with Oliver, it's always about the work. Always." Before Amelia could ask what she meant, Fiona was gone, leaving her alone with Oliver. "You did well," he said, returning to collect his papers. "The team respects thoroughness, even if they don't always show it." "Even Richard?" Amelia asked skeptically. "Richard respects results. Deliver those, and he'll come around." Oliver checked his watch again. "It's late. Harrison will take you home. Tomorrow we'll handle your travel preparations." In the car, London's evening lights streaking past, Amelia finally exhaled. The day had been overwhelming, exhilarating, and utterly unlike anything in her academic experience. Corporate decisions happened at lightning speed, with millions of pounds riding on nuances most people would never notice. Her phone buzzed with a text from Oliver. "Forgot to mention, business class ticket to Warsaw issued, dress code for negotiations, formal business attire. Company card for necessary purchases will be provided tomorrow. Good work today." Oh. Amelia stared at her phone, reality crashing in. She owned exactly one formal business outfit, bought for academic conferences and already slightly outdated. Her luggage consisted of a battered weekend bag and a backpack for her laptop. Corporate culture required visual fluency as much as linguistic. She needed to look the part. Another text arrived. "Diane suggested you might appreciate a shopping allocation for appropriate business attire. Card will cover it. Consider it an investment in our mutual success." Oh. Heat rose in Amelia's cheeks. Embarrassment mingled with gratitude. Was her inadequacy that obvious? As if reading her mind, a final text appeared. "This is standard procedure for all new hires with international duties. Nothing personal." Oh. Somehow that made it worse. Amelia typed a careful response. "Understood. Thank you for the consideration." Harrison pulled up to her building. "Home safe, Ms. Nowak, 7:30 tomorrow morning." 7:30, she confirmed. "Thank you, Harrison." Inside her flat, Priya looked up from her studies. "Well, how was day one with Mr. GQ?" "Intense," Amelia admitted, collapsing onto the sofa. "And I'm going to Warsaw on Wednesday." "Warsaw? Bloody hell, Em. That was fast. Everything's fast in this world." She closed her eyes, exhaustion washing over her. It's like they're playing life at double speed. "And you? Are you keeping up?" Amelia thought about the day, the contracts, the meeting, Oliver's quiet, "You did well." "Surprisingly, yes," she realized. "It's challenging, but I think I might be good at this." "Course you are," Priya said loyally. "You've been decoding linguistic power dynamics since your undergrad days. Corporate negotiations are just posh people playing the same games." Amelia laughed. "That's actually quite insightful. I have my moments." Priya stretched. "Now, more importantly, what does one wear to negotiate Polish tech acquisitions?" "Apparently something I don't currently own," Amelia sighed. "I've been given a shopping allocation." "Fancy? Makeover montage time?" "Something like that." As Amelia prepared for bed, her phone buzzed one last time. A text from her mother. "Proud of you, Kocheni. Your father would say you're finally using your gifts in the real world." The words brought unexpected tears to her eyes. For years, she'd defended her academic path to her practical-minded father. Now, she was stepping into exactly the kind of role he'd always envisioned for her, just too late for him to see it. "Thanks, Mama," she typed back. "Tell Tata his daughter is negotiating with Polish businessmen on Wednesday. He'd like that." She fell asleep, thinking of Oliver's intense focus as she'd explained linguistic nuances, the rare smile that transformed his serious face, and the unsettling feeling that she was being drawn into something far more complex than a simple employment arrangement. Wednesday would bring Warsaw high-stakes negotiations and a deeper immersion into Oliver Hartwell's world. She wasn't entirely sure she was ready. The flight to Warsaw passed in a blur of briefing documents and intermittent sleep. Emilia, dressed in a new charcoal suit that still felt like a costume, alternated between reviewing contracts and stealing glances at Oliver. He worked tirelessly beside her, pausing only to request coffee or clarify a point of strategy. "Nervous?" he asked as they began their descent. "Realistic," she countered. "I've never been part of a multi-million-pound negotiation before." His mouth curved slightly. "You'll be excellent. Just remember, observe everything, react to nothing." Warsaw welcomed them with unseasonably warm sunshine and a sleek company car. As they drove from Chopin Airport toward the city center, Emilia felt the strange dissonance of returning to her mother's homeland as a foreign business person rather than family. "You're quiet," Oliver observed. "Just processing. I usually visit Poland to see family, not to negotiate corporate mergers." "Do you have family in Warsaw?" "Krakow, my mother's side. I haven't visited in almost 2 years." The admission carried a weight of guilt she hadn't intended to reveal. Oliver nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps we could extend your stay after our business concludes. Family is important." The unexpected consideration caught her off guard. "That's very kind, but unnecessary. Consider it. The offer stands." Their hotel, a 5-star establishment in Warsaw's business district, epitomized modern luxury. Emilia's suite was larger than her entire London flat, with views stretching across the Vistula River. "1 hour," Oliver said as they parted in the corridor. "Then we meet the Warsaw tech team for dinner." Alone in her room, Emilia took a moment to breathe. The whirlwind pace of the past 48 hours had left little time for reflection. She'd gone from waitress to international business consultant so quickly that she barely recognized her own life. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "Are you in Warsaw now, Kochani? So close yet so far. Ciocia Helena sends love." Guilt twisted in Emilia's stomach. Her aunt Helena had practically raised her during summers in Krakow, teaching her Polish folk songs and proper pierogi technique. Now she was just 2 hours away by train, and Emilia wouldn't see her. Unless... Oliver's offer to extend her stay flickered through her mind. Perhaps after the negotiations. The dinner that evening was held in a restored pre-war mansion, converted into an exclusive restaurant. Jan Kowalski, Warsaw Tech's founder, greeted them with practiced warmth. In his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and shrewd eyes behind designer glasses, he exuded the confidence of a self-made tech pioneer. "Mr. Hartwell," he said in accented English, shaking Oliver's hand firmly. "Welcome to Warsaw." His gaze shifted to Emilia. "And this is..." "Emilia Nowak, our linguistic and cultural consultant," Oliver replied smoothly. Recognition flickered in Kowalski's eyes at her Polish surname. "Miło mi panią poznać," he said, switching to Polish. "A pleasure to meet you." "Wzajemnie," Emilia responded. Likewise. The dinner unfolded as a carefully choreographed dance of business pleasantries and subtle positioning. Oliver was masterful, appearing relaxed while steering the conversation precisely where he wanted it to go. Emilia divided her attention between the official conversation and the side comments exchanged in Polish between Kowalski and his team, occasionally translating key points for Oliver with discreet notes. Midway through the meal, Kowalski's CTO leaned toward his colleague, murmuring in Polish, "They're desperate for the neural interface patent. We should increase the equity requirements." Emilia's pen froze above her notepad. This was exactly why Oliver had hired her, to catch these unguarded moments. "Enjoying the wine, Ms. Nowak?" Kowalski asked in English, noticing her stillness. "Very much," she replied smoothly. "It reminds me of what my grandfather used to make in his vineyard outside Krakow." "Your family is from Krakow?" Kowalski's interest seemed genuine. "My mother's side, yes, though I was raised primarily in London. Yet your Polish is flawless, impressive." "Dziękuję," she said with a modest smile. "I've always loved languages." Later, in the car back to their hotel, Oliver reviewed her notes with intense concentration. "The neural interface patent," he murmured. "That confirms our intelligence." He glanced at her. "You caught that exchange perfectly. Well done." "They assumed I wouldn't understand the technical terminology in Polish," Emilia explained. "A common mistake. Their mistake, our advantage." His blue eyes held hers for a moment. "You're proving even more valuable than I anticipated, Emilia." The quiet praise shouldn't have affected her as much as it did. She looked away, suddenly conscious of their proximity in the back seat. "Just doing my job," she replied, keeping her voice neutral. The formal negotiations began the next morning in Warsaw Tech's ultra-modern headquarters. Emilia sat slightly behind Oliver, perfectly positioned to observe the Polish team while remaining mostly invisible herself. For 3 hours, she watched a masterclass in negotiation. Oliver was relentless yet charming, firm yet flexible on the right points. He conceded minor issues to secure major ones, always seeming to know exactly when to push and when to yield. During a break, he led her to a quiet corner. "They're holding back on the AI applications," he said in a low voice. "Kowalski keeps glancing at Marek whenever we broach the subject." "I noticed," Emilia confirmed, "and they're using a different vocabulary set when discussing that component, more hesitant, less technical. Something's not right." Oliver's brow furrowed. "Use the lunch break to find out what." "How exactly am I supposed to do that?" His expression turned apologetic. "I noticed Marek's interest in you. Perhaps you could exploit that," Emilia finished, indignation rising. "Engage in conversation," Oliver corrected carefully. "I'm not suggesting anything inappropriate." Emilia studied him, trying to determine if he was being genuine. His eyes held no calculation, only focused intensity. "Fine," she conceded, "but I'm doing this my way." During lunch, she deliberately positioned herself near Marek, the younger tech executive who had indeed shown interest in her. When he predictably approached, she greeted him warmly in Polish. Their conversation flowed easily from Warsaw's changing tech landscape to their respective educational backgrounds. Emilia mentioned her linguistics research, and Marek lit up. "My sister studied computational linguistics. She's actually working on our AI language processing patents." He lowered his voice conspiratorially. "Between us, that's the real gold mine Hartwell is after, though your boss doesn't know it yet." "Oh?" Emilia kept her expression merely curious. "Our neural interface is impressive, but the real breakthrough is how our AI interprets emotional linguistic patterns. We're keeping that in our back pocket until the final negotiations." He winked. "Business, right? Always holding cards close." When negotiations resumed, Emilia passed Oliver a discreet note. His expression remained impassive, but she noticed the slight tightening of his jaw, the only indication he'd received game-changing information. The afternoon session took a surprising turn when Oliver suddenly shifted focus to the AI language processing systems, the very technology Kowalski had attempted to downplay. The Polish team exchanged alarmed glances as Oliver detailed specific aspects of their secret technology. "How did you know?" Kowalski finally asked, abandoning pretense. Oliver merely smiled. "Due diligence, Mr. Kowalski. We value your company for all its innovations, not just the ones you've chosen to highlight." By day's end, the terms had been substantially renegotiated, with Hartwell securing favorable licensing for the language processing patents, while offering Warsaw Tech improved distribution channels in Western markets. As they signed the preliminary agreement, Kowalski gave Emilia a knowing look. "Your linguistic consultant is very thorough, Mr. Hartwell." "Yes, she is," Oliver agreed. "That's precisely why I hired her." Back at the hotel, Oliver ordered champagne to celebrate their success. "To linguistic advantages," he toasted, clinking his glass against hers. "Did I just help you outmaneuver Warsaw Tech?" Emilia asked, still processing the day's events. "You helped create a more honest negotiation," Oliver corrected. They were hiding valuable assets. We discovered them. Now the deal reflects true value on both sides. Emilia wasn't entirely convinced, but the triumph of the day, her contribution to a major international deal, was undeniably intoxicating. "One question," she said after a moment. "How did you know Marek would tell me about their AI technology?" "I didn't," Oliver admitted. "I simply observed that he respected your intelligence and wanted to impress you. People reveal more to those they want to impress than to those they fear." An astute observation for someone in finance. "Finance is psychology with numbers attached," he replied, his expression softening. "Understanding people is the real skill." The champagne, the success, and Oliver's unexpected warmth created a dangerous atmosphere. Emilia found herself noticing details she'd tried to ignore. The precise way he chose his words, the rare, genuine smile that transformed his face, the intensity of his focus when she spoke. "I should prepare for tomorrow," she said abruptly, setting down her glass. "Of course." If Oliver noticed her sudden withdrawal, he didn't comment. "One more thing before you go. I've arranged for you to have Friday free if you'd like to visit your family in Krakow. The company jet can take you there and back." Emilia stared at him, genuinely touched by the gesture. "That's incredibly generous." "It's practical," he replied with a shrug that didn't quite achieve casualness. "I need you at your best, and family matters." Their eyes met, and for a brief moment Emilia glimpsed something beneath his controlled exterior, perhaps loneliness or understanding. Then it was gone, replaced by his usual composed expression. "Thank you," she said simply. "I'd like that very much." "Good. It's settled then." He moved toward the door. "Breakfast at 7? We'll finalize the details before the signing ceremony." 7 is perfect." After he left, Emilia sank onto the plush sofa, emotions swirling. The day had been a triumph professionally, but personally she felt off balance. Oliver Hartwell was not the cold corporate titan she'd expected. He was complex, observant, and occasionally surprisingly thoughtful. And that made him far more dangerous to her carefully constructed boundaries than she'd anticipated. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "If you can visit, Tiosia Helena will make your favorite pierogi." Smiling, Emilia typed back, "Tell her I'll be there Friday," with a story she won't believe. As Warsaw's lights twinkled beyond her window, Emilia realized she was standing at a crossroads. The academic path stretched in one direction, predictable and secure. In the other lay this new world of corporate negotiations, international deals, and Oliver Hartwell's enigmatic presence. For the first time, she wasn't certain which path she truly wanted to follow. The Krakow visit proved both healing and disorienting. Aunt Helena's pierogi tasted like childhood, and her mother's embrace felt like home. Yet Emilia found herself checking her phone for messages from London with alarming frequency. "Your new boss must be very demanding," her mother observed, catching her glancing at her phone during Friday dinner. "He's intense," Emilia admitted. "But fair and handsome," her mother added with suspicious casualness. "I saw his picture when I looked up his company." "Mama, it's not like that. It's strictly professional." Her mother's knowing smile suggested she remained unconvinced. The weekend passed too quickly. By Sunday evening, Emilia was back in London, preparing for Monday's debrief with the Hartwell team. Her inbox contained 3 messages from Oliver, each businesslike yet somehow personal in their attention to detail. He'd arranged a car, confirmed her presentation time, and most surprisingly asked if her family visit had been satisfactory. Monday morning found her back at Hartwell Investments, presenting their Warsaw success to the executive team. Richard Pennington, previously skeptical, now watched her with reluctant respect. "The Warsaw tech deal exceeded our projected terms by 17%, Emilia concluded. "Their AI language processing patents significantly increase our portfolio's value." "All because our waitress caught a whispered conversation," Richard remarked, his tone hovering between impressed and condescending. All because our linguistic consultant recognized valuable intelligence and leveraged it appropriately, Oliver corrected sharply. Well done, Emilia. The meeting concluded with congratulations and new assignments. As the others filed out, Fiona lingered. You're fitting in rather well, she observed. Oliver's pleased. I'm glad, Emilia replied cautiously, uncertain of Fiona's intent. Just remember what I said before. With Oliver, it's always about the work. Fiona's expression softened slightly. He doesn't separate business from personal, never has. I'm not sure what you're implying. I'm not implying anything, Fiona said. I'm stating a fact. Oliver is brilliant, loyal, and utterly devoted to this company, but he's also... She paused. Let's just say his last 3 assistants all quit for the same reason. Which was? They fell for him. Fiona's directness was startling. He never reciprocated, of course. Oliver doesn't do romance, he does results. It makes him an excellent CEO but a complicated boss. Before Emilia could respond, Oliver appeared at the door. Fiona, the Tokyo investors are online too. Uder duty calls, Fiona said with a meaningful look before departing. Alone with Oliver, Emilia felt suddenly self-conscious. Had her attraction been that obvious? She'd thought herself professional, contained. Your family visit went well? He asked, gathering papers from the conference table. Very well, thank you. My aunt was thrilled to see me. Good. He seemed genuinely pleased. The Prague trip is confirmed for next week. Similar structure to Warsaw, though potentially more complex. The Czech team is known for aggressive negotiation tactics. I'll prepare thoroughly, Emilia promised, grateful for the shift to business. Over the next few days, they fell into an intense working rhythm. Emilia arrived early each morning to find Oliver already at his desk, departed late each evening after comprehensive strategy sessions. The proximity was both exhilarating and exhausting. His focused intelligence, his occasional dry humor, the rare moments when his professional mask slipped to reveal something more human beneath. On Thursday evening, as they reviewed the Prague contracts past 9 o'clock, Emilia finally broached the subject that had been nagging at her. My thesis advisor meeting is tomorrow at 2, she said. I'd need 2 hours, possibly 3. Oliver looked up, seeming genuinely surprised. Of course. Take whatever time you need. Your academic work is part of our agreement. The simple acceptance was unexpected after the corporate intensity of recent days. Thank you, she said. It's an important checkpoint for my thesis timeline. What exactly is your thesis topic? Oliver asked, leaning back in his chair. You mentioned Polish dialectal variations, but I'd like to understand the specifics. Emilia hesitated, unused to genuine interest in her academic work outside university circles. It's a comparative analysis of how emotional content is encoded differently across Polish regional dialects, particularly in situations of power imbalance. Such as negotiations, Oliver observed. Exactly. Traditional linguistics focuses on the semantic and syntactic differences between dialects, but I'm examining the pragmatic layer, how meaning changes based on social context. Oliver's expression reflected genuine fascination. And you found significant variations, substantial ones. For instance, Krakow dialect uses semantic diminutives to soften power assertions, while Warsaw dialect employs strategic ambiguity. She stopped, suddenly self-conscious. I'm sorry. Most people find this terribly dull. I don't, Oliver said simply. It explains why you're so effective in negotiations. You're not just translating words, you're translating intent. Their eyes met, and Emilia felt that now familiar connection, the recognition of a mind that understood precision, that valued the complexities others overlooked. The moment stretched, then Oliver glanced at his watch. It's late. You should prepare for your advisor meeting tomorrow. Yes, of course. Emilia gathered her papers, strangely disappointed by the return to practicality. Emilia, Oliver said as she reached the door, I'd like to read your thesis sometime, if you're willing to share it. The request caught her off guard. It's still quite rough. Even so, I find your perspective valuable. I'll send you the current draft, she promised, oddly touched. The next day's advisor meeting proved disastrous. Dr. Peterson had clearly skimmed her latest chapter at best, offering vague criticisms and pushing again for a narrower focus. Your comparative approach is simply too ambitious, he insisted. The committee will find it unfocused. The comparisons are the point, Amelia argued. The dialectal variations only make sense in relation to each other. Nevertheless, I strongly recommend you restrict your analysis to a single dialect, perhaps Krakow, since you have family connections there. Frustrated and disheartened, Emilia returned to Hartwell Investments to find Oliver in an equally sour mood. The Prague team had raised last-minute objections to key contract terms, threatening the entire deal. "They're testing us," Oliver said grimly, "seeing if we'll panic and make concessions." Emilia nodded, still distracted by her advisor's dismissive attitude. "What's wrong?" Oliver asked, surprising her with his perception. "Nothing. Just thesis complications." "Tell me." "It wasn't a request." Emilia sighed. "My advisor wants me to abandon the comparative aspect of my research. He thinks it's too ambitious. And you disagree. The comparison is essential. Without it, the work is just descriptive, not analytical." Oliver studied her for a moment. "You're certain your approach is correct?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Absolutely certain." "Then proceed with your vision. Academic supervisors, like business partners, sometimes lack imagination. The truly innovative work rarely receives immediate understanding." His confidence in her judgment was both surprising and fortifying. "Thank you," she said simply. "No need for thanks. It's merely the truth." He turned back to his computer. "Now about Prague." The weekend brought unexpected developments. Oliver invited her to a Saturday strategy session at his Hampstead home, a modernist glass and stone structure with minimalist furnishings and spectacular city views. The setting was intimidatingly perfect, like Oliver himself, yet strangely impersonal. No family photos, no mementos, nothing revealing the man behind the CEO. As they worked through the Prague strategy, Emilia found herself increasingly aware of him as a person rather than just her employer. The way he absently ran his hand through his hair when concentrating. How he remembered exactly how she took her coffee. The rare, full smile that transformed his serious face when she made a particularly insightful observation. By Sunday evening, when he drove her home in his Aston Martin, Emilia knew she was treading dangerous ground. Fiona's warning echoed in her mind. With Oliver, it's always about the work. Yet when he walked her to her door, and their hands accidentally brushed, the electric current between them felt decidedly unprofessional. "Thank you for your help this weekend," he said, his voice lower than usual. "Just doing my job," she replied, echoing words she'd said before. His blue eyes held hers for a moment too long. "Are you? I sometimes think you're doing far more than that." Before she could respond, his phone rang, the special tone he'd assigned to urgent business matters. The moment shattered as he checked the screen. "I need to take this," he said, professional mask sliding back into place. "See you tomorrow, Emilia." She watched him walk away, equal parts relieved and disappointed by the interruption. The Prague trip unfolded with military precision. Using strategies they'd developed over the weekend, Oliver and Emilia systematically dismantled the Czech team's objections, securing favorable terms on every major point. Their working dynamic had evolved into something approaching telepathy. Emilia could anticipate Oliver's moves, and he trusted her instincts implicitly. During their celebration dinner at a historic restaurant overlooking the Vltava River, Oliver seemed more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "To the best linguistic consultant in Europe," he toasted, raising his wineglass. "To the most demanding boss in London," she countered with a smile. "Am I really so demanding?" he asked, seeming genuinely curious. "You expect excellence, always," Emilia replied honestly. But you also recognize it when it's delivered. That's rare. Something shifted in his expression. A softening, a glimpse of vulnerability. My father believed that anything less than perfection was failure, he said quietly. It's a difficult standard to unlearn. The personal revelation surprised her. He sounds challenging. He was complicated, brilliant but cold. He built the foundation of what became Hartwell Investments, but at considerable personal cost. Oliver's gaze turned distant. He died, never quite believing I could maintain his legacy, let alone expand it. Yet you've done exactly that, Emilia observed. Yes. His focus returned to her. Sometimes the strongest motivation comes from proving someone wrong. The conversation shifted to lighter topics, but Emilia treasured this glimpse behind his professional facade. By the time they returned to their hotel, a comfortable warmth had settled between them. Outside her door, Oliver paused. Dinner was pleasant. It was, she agreed, suddenly very aware of their proximity in the quiet corridor. Emilia, he began, then stopped, seeming uncharacteristically uncertain. Yes, I'm not very good at personal connections. The work always comes first. It's how I'm built. She recognized the warning for what it was. I understand. Do you? His eyes searched hers. Because I find myself thinking about you in ways that extend beyond our professional relationship, and that's unfamiliar territory for me. The admission hung between them, charged with possibility and complication. Oliver, she said carefully, we work together. You're my boss. I know. He stepped back slightly, which is why I needed to acknowledge it, and why nothing can come of it. I value your contribution to Hartwell Investments too much to compromise it. The pragmatic rejection stung more than it should have. I appreciate your candor. Always? He offered a small, slightly sad smile. Good night, Emilia. Good night, Oliver. Inside her room, Emilia leaned against the closed door, emotions churning. The man was infuriating, acknowledging attraction only to immediately shut it down. Yet wasn't that exactly what made him Oliver? The ruthless pragmatism, the unwavering focus on what mattered most to him, the work. Fiona had warned her. Oliver didn't do romance. He did results. Emilia had just witnessed that principle in action. The return to London brought new developments. Richard Pennington resigned unexpectedly, citing personal reasons that office gossip attributed to a failed power play against Oliver. Organizational restructuring followed, with Emilia's role expanding to include all Eastern European negotiations. 3 weeks after Prague, as they prepared for a client dinner, Oliver made an unexpected request. Would you be willing to accompany me to the Finvest Awards Gala next Saturday? Hartwell is nominated for European Boutique Investment Firm of the Year. As your linguistic consultant? Emilia clarified. As my guest, Oliver replied, though if any Polish investors attend, your skills would be valuable. The professional justification felt like an afterthought, but Emilia appreciated the pretense. I'd be happy to attend. The gala, held at the historic Guildhall, was a gathering of financial elite, old money mingling with tech billionaires, traditional bankers alongside innovative disruptors. Emilia, in a midnight blue gown purchased with Oliver's encouragement, consider it a business expense, felt simultaneously out of place and exhilarated. Oliver, impeccable in his tuxedo, introduced her to a dizzying array of influential figures. Emilia Nowak, our Eastern European specialist, he would say, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back. The gesture felt possessive in a way that sent conflicting signals after his clear Prague boundaries. When Hartwell Investments won its category, Oliver's acceptance speech included unexpected recognition. Special thanks to Emilia Nowak, whose linguistic brilliance has transformed our international negotiations. The public acknowledgement in front of the financial world's elite left her breathless. Later, as they danced to the orchestra's rendition of classic standards, Oliver held her closer than strictly necessary. You've transformed this company, he said quietly. Your insights have revolutionized our approach. I think you're exaggerating my contribution, Emilia replied, though the praise warmed her. I never exaggerate. It's inefficient. His hand tightened slightly at her waist. The Warsaw Tech deal alone justifies your salary 10 times over. Always the businessman, she teased, hiding her disappointment at his focus on financial metrics. Not always, he murmured, his eyes intense. Not tonight. The implication hung between them as they continued dancing, bodies moving in perfect synchronization despite the uncertainty of their words. Later, in his car outside her flat, Oliver turned to her with uncharacteristic hesitation. Emilia, about what I said in Prague. It's fine, she interrupted. You were right. Professional boundaries are important. They are, he agreed. But sometimes I wonder if we've drawn them in the wrong places. Before she could respond, he leaned across and kissed her, a gentle, questioning kiss that quickly deepened as she responded. Years of suppressed attraction crystallized in that moment, her hands in his hair, his arms pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Oliver rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that since Warsaw. What changed your mind about professional boundaries? She asked, heart racing. I realized something during the awards ceremony, he said. When they announced our win, I looked for you first. Not to celebrate the company's success, but to share the moment with you specifically. That's new territory for me. Oliver Hartwell, admitting he doesn't have all the answers, she teased gently. Now that is new territory. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his face. I'm willing to explore it, if you are. I am, she admitted, though it complicates things. Complexity can be managed, he said with characteristic confidence. Like any negotiation, it's about finding terms that work for both parties. Always the businessman, she repeated, but this time with affection rather than disappointment. Not always, he said again, drawing her back for another kiss. As London's night enveloped them, Emilia knew they were venturing into uncharted territory. A negotiation far more personal than business deals, with stakes infinitely higher than corporate profits. The linguistic consultant and the CEO translating new meaning together. It wouldn't be simple, but then the most valuable things rarely were. 3 months after the Finvest Awards Gala, Emilia sat in Dr. Peterson's office waiting for his final verdict on her thesis draft. The past quarter had been a whirlwind of professional and personal transformations, each day a delicate balance between her academic commitments and her expanding role at Hartwell Investments. Her relationship with Oliver had evolved with the same precision that characterized his business dealings. Careful, intentional, yet surprisingly passionate, once privacy allowed. They maintained strict professionalism at the office, their personal connection visible only in subtle glances and the occasional brush of hands during late-night strategy sessions. Well, Ms. Nowak, Dr. Peterson said, adjusting his glasses as he set down her manuscript, I must admit, I was skeptical about your comparative approach. Emilia braced herself for criticism. She had ultimately refused to narrow her focus, choosing instead to strengthen her methodology and sharpen her analysis. But, he continued with unexpected warmth, you've proved me wrong. This is exceptional work, genuinely groundbreaking in its cross-dialectal analysis. Relief washed over her. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. I'm recommending an expedited defense date. The department is quite interested in your findings, particularly given their practical applications in international relations. As she left his office, Emilia felt a curious emptiness beneath her triumph. For years, her thesis had been her primary focus, her academic validation the goal toward which all efforts were directed. Now that success was within reach, she found herself more excited to share the news with Oliver than to celebrate the achievement itself. She found him in his office, engaged in a tense call with investors. He acknowledged her with a brief nod as she settled at her desk, waiting for his conversation to conclude. Progress requires risk, he was saying, his voice carrying that particular blend of authority and reassurance that had closed countless deals. The Budapest expansion represents calculated opportunity, not speculative gamble. When he finally hung up, he exhaled slowly, then turned to her with a questioning look. "Well, the thesis?" "Approved," she said, unable to contain her smile. "Doctor, Peterson is recommending an expedited defense." Oliver's face transformed with genuine pleasure. "Excellent. I knew he'd recognize the value of your approach." He checked his watch. "This calls for celebration. Dinner at 8? Perfect." As they worked through the afternoon, Amelia found herself watching him. The focused intensity as he reviewed contracts, the slight furrow between his brows when something didn't align with his expectations. In 3 months, she had come to know him in ways few others did. His preference for simplicity in his personal life, despite his professional complexity. His dry, understated humor that emerged in private moments. The occasional vulnerability when he spoke of his father's legacy. At precisely 5:30, Fiona appeared at their door. "The Budapest projections," she said, placing a folder on Oliver's desk. Her gaze shifted to Amelia. "And congratulations on your thesis approval. News travels fast." Thank you," Amelia replied, still surprised by how comfortable she had become in this world of high finance and swift decisions. Fiona lingered a moment. "Oliver, a word?" They stepped outside, their conversation muted but intense. When Oliver returned, his expression had tightened. "Problem?" Amelia asked. "The Budapest investors are wavering. I need to fly there tomorrow morning." He ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of frustration. "I'm sorry about dinner. Rain check?" "Of course." She kept her disappointment from her voice. "Do you need me to come with you?" He considered it briefly, then shook his head. "No need. It's primarily financial reassurance, not linguistic nuance." His phone buzzed. "That's Harrison confirming the flight details. I should prepare." "No?" The sudden shift from personal celebration to business crisis was jarring, yet perfectly characteristic of their relationship. Oliver operated in a world where millions could be gained or lost in hours. Personal plans would always be secondary to such stakes. As she gathered her things to leave, Oliver caught her hand. "I truly am sorry about dinner. Your thesis approval is important." "It's fine," she assured him. "Budapest is important too." "Amelia," his voice softened, "your accomplishments matter to me. We'll celebrate properly when I return." The sincerity in his eyes melted her disappointment. "I know. Go save the Budapest deal. I'll be here when you get back." That evening, alone in her flat, Amelia found herself at another crossroads. With her thesis nearly complete, she needed to consider her next steps. Academic positions remained scarce, but her work at Hartwell had opened unexpected doors. 3 universities had expressed interest in her research on linguistic negotiation patterns, and 2 multinational corporations had approached her about consultation roles. And then there was Oliver, brilliant, demanding, gradually learning to balance work with personal connection. Their relationship existed in a carefully maintained equilibrium, neither encroaching on the other's professional territory while building something meaningful in the spaces between. Her phone buzzed with a text from him. "Boarding now. Budapest investors more nervous than expected. May need to extend stay through weekend. Missing you already." She smiled at the last line, a small but significant evolution for a man who once claimed personal connections were unfamiliar territory. "Good luck in Budapest," she replied. "Remember that Hungarian pronouns are gender-neutral, might help with the cultural translation." His response came quickly. "Always the linguist. That's why I—" The message ended abruptly, as if he'd stopped himself from completing the thought. Amelia stared at those 3 words. "That's why I—" her heart racing with possibilities. They had been careful with emotional declarations, both wary of vulnerability in their high-achieving worlds. Was he about to say what she thought, and why had he stopped? The weekend passed slowly. Oliver's updates from Budapest were brief and business-focused. suggesting the negotiations were proving difficult. Emilia immersed herself in thesis revisions, preparing for her defense while trying not to obsess over his unfinished message. Monday morning brought unexpected news, not from Oliver but from Dr. Peterson. "Oxford is offering a full postdoctoral fellowship," he announced during their morning meeting, "based on your thesis methodology. They want you to expand your research across Slavic languages. It's a prestigious position, Emilia. 3 years of funded research with teaching opportunities." The offer was everything she had worked toward: academic recognition, research freedom, the path to eventual professorship. Yet her first thought was of Hartwell Investments, of the role she had built there, of Oliver. "When would it start?" she asked, buying time to process. "September, but they need your answer by Friday." 3 days to decide her future direction. When she arrived at the office, Oliver's assistant informed her that he was still in Budapest, but expected back that evening. Emilia settled at her desk, attempting to focus on the Hungarian contracts while her mind churned with the Oxford offer. Just after noon, her phone rang, Oliver's private line. "The deal's secured," he said without preamble, his voice carrying the particular satisfaction of hard-won success. "We had to restructure the equity distribution, but the essential terms remain intact." "Congratulations," she replied sincerely. "When are you back?" "My flight lands at 7, dinner at 9. We still have your thesis to celebrate." "Perfect. I have news to share as well." There was a brief pause. "Good news, I hope." "Complicated news," she admitted. "But yes, essentially good." Another pause. "I see. Well, we'll discuss it tonight." As she prepared for dinner, Emilia rehearsed various ways to present the Oxford offer. It was a tremendous opportunity, yet accepting it would mean leaving Hartwell, leaving Oliver, or at least dramatically changing their dynamic. Long-distance relationships were notoriously difficult, and Oliver's schedule allowed little flexibility for Oxford visits. They met at a small, exclusive restaurant near Covent Garden, one of their favourite spots for private conversations away from London's financial circles. Oliver arrived directly from the airport, his suit slightly rumpled from travel, but his eyes bright with triumph. "Budapest is officially part of the Hartwell portfolio," he announced after they ordered. "A £600 million expansion into Eastern European tech infrastructure." "That's extraordinary," Emilia said, genuinely impressed. "The board must be ecstatic." "They are." He studied her across the table. "But enough about Budapest. Tell me your complicated news." Taking a deep breath, she explained the Oxford offer, the prestige, the research opportunities, the natural extension of her academic work. Oliver listened without interruption, his expression carefully neutral. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "It's an exceptional opportunity," he said, his voice measured. "Oxford postdoctoral fellowships are highly competitive." "They are," she agreed, searching his face for his true reaction. "When would you need to start?" "September. But they need my answer by Friday." He took a sip of his wine, eyes never leaving hers. "And what are you inclined to say?" The directness of his question caught her off guard. She had expected him to tell her what he wanted, to make a counter-proposal, to negotiate as he did in all things. "I don't know," she admitted. "It's everything I've worked toward academically. But Hartwell has become important to me." "Just Hartwell?" he asked quietly. "You know it's not just Hartwell." Oliver set down his glass, his expression softening. "Emilia, I would never ask you to sacrifice your academic goals for Hartwell Investments, or for me. I know that." "Do you?" He leaned forward slightly. "Because I need you to understand something. When I hired you, I saw extraordinary potential. What I didn't anticipate was how essential you would become, not just to the company's success, but to my own sense of purpose." The admission hung between them, more significant than any previous declaration. "That unfinished text," she said suddenly. "That's why I—" "What were you going to say?" A flash of vulnerability crossed his face. "I think you know." "I'd like to hear it. Properly." Oliver took a deep breath. "That's why I love you." The words, finally spoken, created a moment of perfect stillness between them. "I love you too," she replied softly, "which makes this decision even more difficult." "Perhaps not." He reached for her hand. "I've been thinking about this since you mentioned complicated news this morning. There's a potential solution, if you're willing to consider it." "I'm listening." "Hartwell is expanding its academic partnerships division. We fund research that has potential commercial applications. Your work on linguistic power dynamics in negotiations has obvious value." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "We could establish a research partnership with Oxford, fund your fellowship while maintaining your connection to Hartwell as an academic consultant." Emilia processed his suggestion. "You'd create a position just to keep me connected to Hartwell?" "No," he corrected gently. "I'd recognize an existing opportunity that benefits both Oxford and Hartwell. The fact that it also allows us to continue our personal relationship is a fortunate alignment of interests." She couldn't help but smile. "Always the negotiator." "I prefer to think of it as problem-solving," he replied, returning her smile. "Finding terms that work for all parties. And if Oxford doesn't agree to the partnership, then you accept their fellowship without it, and we find a way to make a long-distance relationship work." His expression turned serious. "I won't stand between you and your academic goals, Emilia. That was never part of our negotiation." The generosity of his position, his willingness to reshape business structures or accept personal inconvenience rather than asking her to compromise, touched her deeply. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For understanding that I need both worlds, the academic and the practical, the theoretical and the applied." "Of course I understand," he replied. "It's what makes you exceptional. Your ability to bridge those worlds is precisely why I—" He paused, then finished with deliberate clarity. "Why I love you." 3 days later, Emilia sat in Oxford's imposing Department of Linguistics, finalizing the details of her fellowship. Across from her, the department chair and Hartwell's academic liaison reviewed the partnership agreement Oliver had somehow manifested in less than 72 hours. "This is quite unprecedented," the chair admitted, "but the research funding is substantial, and the practical applications are intriguing. We believe Mrs. Nowak's work represents a unique opportunity," the Hartwell representative replied smoothly. "Linguistic analysis with immediate commercial value." When the meeting concluded, Emilia stepped out into Oxford's historic quadrangle, where Oliver waited on a stone bench. He rose as she approached, his questioning look asking what words didn't. "It's done," she confirmed. "Oxford has accepted the partnership. I start in September, splitting my time between research here and consultation at Hartwell." His smile held genuine pleasure. "Congratulations, Dr. Nowak, or soon-to-be Dr. Nowak." "Thank you, though I couldn't have done it without your rather impressive negotiation skills." "I merely presented a mutually beneficial arrangement," he replied modestly. "Oxford gets funding and practical applications. Hartwell gets continued access to your brilliant mind." "And what do you get?" she asked, stepping closer. His expression softened as he reached for her hand. "I get to continue discovering who we are together, without asking you to sacrifice what matters to you." As they walked through Oxford's ancient streets, Emilia marveled at the journey that had brought them here, from a pronunciation challenge in an upscale restaurant to a partnership that bridged their different worlds. A translation of sorts, finding equivalent meaning across distinct domains. "What are you thinking?" Oliver asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "I'm thinking about translation," she replied. "Not just between languages, but between worlds, academic and corporate, theory and practice." "And have you reached any conclusions?" She smiled up at him. "That the most accurate translations preserve the essential meaning while acknowledging the unique context. They don't force one system to become the other. They find the connections between them. Like us," he observed, "exactly like us." 6 months later, Emilia stood before a packed lecture hall at Oxford, presenting the findings of her doctoral research. In the front row sat Oliver, his proud smile carrying her through complex linguistic explanations and theoretical frameworks. Afterward, as colleagues offered congratulations, he approached with uncharacteristic patience, waiting his turn to speak with the newly minted Dr. Nowak. "Brilliant presentation," he said when they finally had a moment alone. "Though I noticed you didn't mention the Warsaw Tech negotiation in your case studies." "Client confidentiality," she replied with a wink. "Some translations must remain private." "Speaking of private," Oliver said, reaching into his pocket, "I have something for you." He produced a small blue box that caused her heart to skip. "Oliver, before you say anything," he interrupted gently, "this isn't a traditional proposal. I know better than to rush a linguist into a definitive statement without proper consideration." She laughed, tension breaking. "Very wise." He opened the box to reveal not an engagement ring, but an exquisite platinum key. "This is a key to my home," he explained, "and an invitation to consider making it our home whenever you're ready. No timeline, no pressure, just a door that's always open to you." Emilia took the key, emotion tightening her throat. "This is perfect. Exactly the right translation of what we need right now." "I thought so," he said, drawing her close. "I'm learning to speak your language, Dr. Nowak. And I yours, Mr. Hartwell." As Oxford's ancient bells chimed across the quadrangle, Emilia reflected on the extraordinary chain of events that had brought them together. A CEO's challenge, a waitress's response, and the unlikely alchemy that transformed professional respect into something far more precious. "I'll give you my bonus if you can pronounce this," he had said that first night, never imagining that what she would pronounce eventually would be those 3 words that changed everything. "I love you." Some challenges, it seemed, offered rewards far greater than mere financial bonuses, and some pronunciations carried meanings that transformed lives forever. "Ready to go home?" Oliver asked, offering his arm. "Which one?" she teased. "Oxford or London?" His smile held all the certainty and all the possibility she could ever need. "Whichever one we're in together." And in that moment, the translation was perfect.